Welcome to this coffee break, and I thought I'd just do something this time on church planting and how to get started. Now, it's not that there's a set list of do's and don'ts, but there are just some things that perhaps I've learnt over the time I've been involved in one or two church plants over the years. And also, I come to realise in talking to some church planters online in a kind of a mentoring thing the other night, that there's some simple things that we can do just to help ourselves. So I've just jotted a few things down on my phone, and I'll just go through them. I think the first thing to say is I'm talking mainly about places at the moment where there's a very small start, a bit like Paul going to Philippi, going to find a place of prayer, finding down by the river there were some women there, Lydia being one of them. The reason he went to find a place of prayer was that there wasn't a big enough Jewish community to have 10 men, which he needed to have to form a synagogue. So he was in a situation where it was a very small start, and Lydia opened her house. She was a woman of influence in the community, and they made a very small start. So what might that look like for us? Well, I think it is important to find men or women of peace in the community where you go to. So Lydia is a good example. So I would try to find someone of influence, some context to go in of influence into the community. So, for example, if you go into a city, why not start meeting at a Starbucks or a cafe or somewhere where people gather, congregate, and maybe find it more easy to be in a kind of Christian environment if they're not Christians, just kind of something like that. Involve food. I cannot emphasize this highly enough. Strange to say, but some of the church plants I've seen that have really done very well, up to even about 100 people, they eat together every week. And I think food is a language. It's a way of building people together, particularly in international cross-cultural church plants. Invite people to bring their different foods and flavours. It gives a sense of honour and a sense of belonging and a sense of oneness. And eating together is really important. So I would find a way, if possible, of making that happen. It says of the early church they broke bread, ate together in one another's homes. That was even when there was thousands of them. So there's ways of making it happen, and I would always try to do that. I think it's important to shape the culture as well, because if you don't shape the culture, someone else will. So things like maximum relationship, minimum organisation. So that means don't attempt too much too quickly. So why not, for example, shape the culture by everybody doing an Alpha course? Just put the DVDs on, watch it, invite people who are not Christians. Even if it's just Christians that are doing the Alpha course, the gospel does us good. Somebody asked me a question about that and said, well, shouldn't we just pastor the people we've got and then reach out later? The cross does us all good. The gospel does us all good, whether we're Christians or we're not. And I think using an Alpha course as a way of just gathering, just repeatedly doing that, perhaps breaking bread, simple sort of worship, even doing things like when you do teaching, do it interactively. Don't sit there and preach a sermon at 10 people, just do interactive question and answer, that kind of stuff. Try not to over-define things too quickly. Instead of calling it as church plant, we're starting to use words like gospelizing. At what point did Philippi become a church plant? It was just Lydia's home. Probably as it got off the ground a little bit more, it became known as the church in her house or something. But I think it can put pressure on people who go and plant churches to feel they're planting a church and there's only 4 of them. You're gospelizing. Inviting friends, finding men and women of peace in the community is really important as well. So just looking for those connections in God, people who are open and receptive to the gospel, who even offer to let their homes be used. Lydia was a key example because she was a businesswoman. She had lots of contacts in the community, and that was really probably the thing that opened it up for Paul. So those are just some simple things. Breaking bread together, simple act of worship. Also about co-creating, giving a sense of ownership together, those sorts of things. There's just some thoughts, and I think not to have too much pressure to do too much too quickly, just to enjoy yourselves and keep in good touch with people, friends around you in other places, perhaps from where you've come. But key thing is food, simple program, maximum relationship, men and women of peace, and do it in a context where it's going to be have maximum impact in the particular community where you are. Look for venues and opportunities that just help you get really stuck into the community. So I hope that helps. They're just some observations that I've had over the years as I've been involved in several church plants, getting them from naught to 100, and they're just some observations. As I say, it's not the final word. There are some other ways of doing it. Some people sort of hit the ground running and have 50 people after a couple of months, and that's great. And public meetings and full band and PA and all the rest of it, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. I'm talking about carving it out in pioneering situations, particularly where a slightly longer term, perhaps cross-cultural setting is probably more where this is going to be the order of events. And just to remember, Paul, with Lydia, as an apostle, he was just as happy with ones and twos in a small planting situation as he was in a massive church in Jerusalem or wherever else. So every church plant matters, every pioneering work matters, everyone is precious, and everyone who's pioneering for the gospel deserves real honour and any help and prayers that we can give them. So hope that helps.